welcome back. Folks, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening the Federal Representative for the Constituency of St. James and St. Thomas's and Special Advisor to the Nevis Island Administration, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. Honorable, Happy New Year to you and welcome once again to the program Government at Work.
Thank you very much, Keith, and let me extend Happy New Year to you as well. I send that back to you tenfold. Let me say good night to all of our listeners and viewers at this point in time, and also extend best wishes for the year 2025 and beyond. And hopefully, Keith, we can be around next year to wish each other a Happy New Year as well. And that will be God's blessings on us. Yes, thank you for inviting me here again this time around, Keith. And I will say that it is always my pleasure to be here. And I was your first guest, and I say it over and over again. Yes. And it's always a pleasure to be in your company. And we should have a fruitful discussion this evening. And thank you once again.
Definitely, we should have a fruitful discussion. And I want to invite you more often on the program, because indeed you were the first guest, my first guest, and you know we did this together in the early days.
Yes.
So we need to do it a little bit more often as we go forward. Now, I want to focus your attention in this first half of the program on the proposed upgrades to the Vance W. Amory International Airport and its surroundings. Let me start by asking you this. You have held 3 consultations thus far involving and updating the general public on the status of this project. Will there be any more consultations, or that's it for now?
Yes, okay. Before I answer that directly, let me first of all say to the listening and viewing public that the realization of the potential of the island of Nevis will never materialize unless we have this major development done. That is the upgrade and expansion of the Vance Amory International Airport. As a matter of fact, I will say to you that for us to remain competitive regionally and internationally, this project is a must. You have asked about the consultations. Yes, we've had 3 successful consultations thus far, and I will say indeed we'll have additional consultations. As a matter of fact, once the project gets going, then we'll have a media team that is a part of this particular project, so that every step of the way there will be updates meted out or disseminated to the general public, because it is an important project that involves all of us, and indeed everyone should be kept abreast as to what is going on. In terms of consultations, of course, we'll have further consultations with different agencies within the government, different ministries, of course. And indeed, if we are asked to by, say, planning, for example, or any other entity, we'll have to do that. But we'll have certainly dialogues as we go along with the general public, to update the general public and to make sure that everyone is on board as we go along, because this is a meaningful project, very important project, and one that can certainly be a game changer here on the island of Nevis.
Okay. Now, I'm aware that there were some little challenges regarding the lands around the particular area. Are you in a position to say whether or not the challenges around those lands in question are now fully resolved?
Well, let's put it this way. Most of the challenges that you will have with a project of this nature, especially when you have to acquire or buy lands, is the initial conversation with land and property owners. That conversation was held since 2023. Those conversations, I should say. As a matter of fact, with negotiations, you'll have an offer, or perhaps a counter offer, and then finally acceptance when all parties agree to a certain price. We have come to that particular point where we have done the negotiations and we have had agreements sorry, on all sides in terms of price that we'll pay per square foot, or in some cases for properties. Now, at least I will say that there are additional conversations to be had, but by and large we have been successful in coming to some agreements, and we are now in the process of formulating the memorandum of transfers and so forth for the various parcels of lands that we intend to purchase to be a part of the airport perimeter or airport property when it's all said and done. So those have gone reasonably well. I will say further that I can say they've gone well if they would have gone well if we would have gotten a particular price, which would be a very low price. But the price that we would have negotiated, in my opinion, is still very reasonable. And for the area in which we are buying these lands, of course, it's a developed area. And of course, the price, in my opinion, was certainly or is reasonable for what it's being used for and intended to be used for. That is.
Now, what about the final drawings for the proposed upgrades? Has that been completed or still?
Well, I will say certain designs have been completed. For example, the road that will be the new road or the realigned road, the designs have been completed for that and already have been submitted to the Ministry of Communications and Works. So that is done. And of course, I don't know if you want to go into that particular bit of road a little bit more at this point or a bit later.
A bit later,
but
that.
Also there are other areas, for example, the fire station, that is about 85% complete in terms of the design. Same thing with the passenger terminal, and also the runway and the extension and so forth. All those are at, say, about 60 to 70% completed. But indeed, I will say further that, for example, the runway, the design for that will not be fully completed at this particular point in time. But what we intend to do when we get rolling, the work has been done on that portion thus far, meaning heading eastwards and also to the west. But those detailed drawings and so forth will be available once the project gets going. But preliminary designs are there for sure.
Okay, great. Now, the question of the EIA always comes up. Is it safe to say that that has been signed off on by the Department of Planning, or it's still in the works?
No, I would not use the term signed off on, because you see the process when it comes to an EIA, or these days it is called an Environmental and Social Impact Assessment, ESIA. The way it works is that the developer will compile the EIA or ESIA, and then thereafter it's submitted, 3 copies of it is submitted to the planning or the Department of Physical Planning. So those steps have been taken, and then the Department of Physical Planning will then place that particular document at a conspicuous location. It was placed at the Nevis Public Library, and this time around we took it one step further and we were able to make it available electronically. So persons were able to download the document and look at it, and of course comments will be sent to the Department of Physical Planning, and then the developer will know about these comments, concerns. We also got some comments and concerns that were raised at the presentation we made up there at Pond Hill back in, I believe it was November. November, yes, I believe it was. And also those were taken on board. So any adjustments to be made or correction or further steps to be taken will be done accordingly. So that's why I said it's not wise to say, signed off on, because there are comments, I'm sure, out there. I haven't taken sight of those, but those will be submitted to planning, and of course some will come to us, but I haven't seen any at this point in time. But if they were presented to planning will then make us aware of those concerns, so that as the developer, which is the NIA will have to take remedial steps accordingly. But that was a consultation that was successful. We had quite a number of persons who came and raised concerns, of course, and we are cognizant of those concerns. And of course the whole attempt here is to make sure you can find mitigating strategies to counter and to minimize some of these challenges. But the EIA is still a document, a working and a live document out there that will have to be addressed accordingly.
Okay, great. Now, much has been said about the financing for this project. Could you shed some light on that for us, so that the truth could be out there for those who wish to know it?
Well, let me say from the onset that the partnership that we're forging with Mr. Patrick Dry is still one that exists. We had a meeting with him, that is the Premier, Mark Brantley, and I, back in December. I believe it was the 30th of December, and he gave his 110% assurance that he's still on board. I don't know if you recall, some time ago, an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, was signed between the NIA and Mr. Drahi. What an MOU is let's put it this way. In some countries, it can be a binding document or agreement, and it can be a contract that you can work from. In other instances, it lays the foundation for an eventual contract or an eventual agreement. So that MOU would have contained some of the conditions or thinking of the financier. And of course, we then have to wait for a final contract. Now, in terms of that final contract or agreement, that will be made available as soon as that is all completed by both parties, and of course the Ministry of Finance will be the one to provide all of the necessary information along those lines. So I just want to wrap up and say on that question that of course we are still working with and ensuring that we have this public-private partnership with Mr. Drahi and his team. I will go one step further as well, because we have also engaged the Republic of China Taiwan ICDF, and we are seeking their support and financing for, and I'll go over all of the necessary items that will be covered by the different parties. In terms of the ICDF, we're looking to get financing or seeking financing from the ICDF for the upgrade of the passenger terminal, the construction of the fire hall, the upgrade of the control tower, the construction of the new bypass, if you want to call it a bypass road, or the new aligned or realigned road, and also the customs building, because we're removing all of the customs, those packages that come in via those cargo airlines, FedEx and DHL and other cargo companies. We're moving them out of the passenger terminal. Currently, when you land at Van Summer International Airport and you come into the arrival area and into the baggage claim area, that's where all of the baggage that comes off the airlines and also the cargo that comes on those cargo aircrafts, that's where all of it is kept, or that's where they're placed. We want to separate that, whereby we'll have a separate location on site for cargo. Simply, we feel like with the upgrade of this airport, there would be an increase in the volume of cargo that comes into Van Summer International. So we want that to be separate and apart. It makes it easier as well for persons who are coming to claim their cargo to do so without having to interact with persons at the airport or at the passenger terminal. That would be for passenger terminal, passengers, and also their luggage that comes in with them, and then you'll claim your cargo at a separate location. So that's what we're seeking financing for from the Taiwanese. Back to Mr. Drahi. Now, his financing is for the extension of the runway, and we'll go into details as to what will be done under each particular heading, of course. The extension of the runway, both eastwards and westwards, the reinforcement of the runway, the upgrade of the lighting along the airfield, and also the construction of brand new parking apron. We'll also be upgrading the apron directly in front of the passenger terminal itself, and of course construction of a brand new parking apron, and also we're seeking to actually construct a brand new fuel farm. Right now, if you cast your mind over to the Van Summer International Airport, you see an area there where there are some tanks that, they store their fuel and what's not at this point in time. That would be eliminated, and we'll have a brand new upgraded fuel farm, which will, those tanks will hold in excess of 200,000 gallons of jet fuel, and also we'll have avgas, which is for the smaller, lighter aircraft. Then, of course, we'll have the construction of what you call it now, the aircraft hangar, and also the construction of an FBO, which is a fixed base operation. Now, the fixed base operation is actually what is utilized by persons who fly in on those private jets or business jets. Instead of them going into the passenger terminal and mixing with the regular passengers there, they get that particular type of service through the fixed base operation, where you have customs and immigration and the likes in that particular facility. So those are what the funding from Mr. Dry would cover. And then, of course, I gave you an outline as to what the funding from the Taiwan ICDF will cover as well. So we have those two areas and those two source of financing that we're trying to complete all of the arrangement here in short order. I'm confident that we're heading in the right direction in that regard.
Okay. There was some mention of the federal government assisting as well?
Yes. Well, the federal government, we have sought their assistance with the financing of the purchase of the lands that we're buying to expand the airport. Now, I can say that loan, I think the board is going to be meeting next Tuesday, the 28th of January, to finalize that loan that will be somewhere in the region of 20 million East dollars to pay for all of the lands, which I will say that we are seeking to purchase about 50 plus acres of lands, substantial amount of lands. So the Van Summer International Airport and the property on a whole will be expanded tremendously with this particular purchase to give NASPA the management of almost 100 acres of land over there. So that is what the federal government is seeking to assist us with. And of course, like I said, next Tuesday, the board will meet, the National Bank board that is, and we are hoping to have, that approval in short order so we can proceed. I will say to you as well, Keith, that we have started the process of compiling those memorandum of transfers for those lands that we have finalized agreements for, because we're hoping that once the monies are available, we can pay out persons as quickly as possible and move forward as quickly as possible with this project. We anticipate that, I'm sure you'll ask me when do I anticipate this project to start, but I don't want to preempt you, but I know that question will come, because that is the question being asked by many persons out there. People are no longer asking if the project will get started, but when. Sure. And that is a good thing, because we have been steadfast in our pursuit with this project, because as I said from the onset, that we will not realize our true potential as an island and get to the level of development that we're seeking to get to without this particular project being undertaken and completed. So I suppose if you were to ask me, when do I anticipate? This quarter. This quarter we anticipate that we'll move forward with our groundbreaking ceremony and get work started over there at the Van Summer International Airport, because I want to remind you and remind the general public that we are seeking to undertake this project and have it completed by December of 2026. Okay. For that festive period, we would want to have, at least, the facilities open, ready to receive the world. Okay. And that is the plans that we have and that we're working on at this point in time.
Okay, great. Now, there's some properties in close proximity to the airport. Which properties will have to be moved as a result of the pending upgrades?
Okay. Well, we're not touching any properties to the north. And when I said to the north, you're talking about the seaside of the airport, okay, of the airport runway. On the south side, you're looking at Tire World, which is pretty much where most of the parking would be done in terms of the aircraft parking and so forth. You're looking at, there is a building that is on the southeast. Well, it's on your left-hand side as you pass the top of the airport parking lot. Mm-hmm. There's a white building there with a white roof. That, of course, that property is one that will be sending the island main road as we extend towards Newcastle. The main road, that is, would go through that property. So that's one of the properties that we're seeking to purchase as well. And then those properties that to to make it easy, that are on the seaside of the Island Main Road, stretching from where the new or the temporary fire hall, where that is, moving towards, up towards
Arlene Shop.
Arlene Shop and those areas. We are seeking to, at least in this particular phase, we have spoken to pretty much everyone along that thoroughfare, that we would want to make sure that we open the airport fence at this point in time. We could have done so without it, I'll say that. But in terms of the larger aircrafts that will be coming, and of course the fume and so forth from these aircraft, you don't want persons to be safe and persons to be in a healthy environment. So I believe it is wise of us. Plus, what is most important though is the fact that the control tower, with the extension of the runway, there are obstacles. They are considered obstacles at this point in time, because right now as it is, you stand in the, if you were to go in the control tower and look eastwards, then you cannot actually see the end of the runway because of vegetation, those tall trees and so forth. And it has been a perennial problem over the years, and there have been a back and forth regarding these things. But we feel it is time to eliminate that problem if we are upgrading and we are seeking to attract, aircraft out of the United States, for example, and American Airlines. All these things will be looked at in terms of the safety and whether we're meeting the standards that are set by the by ECA, which is the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, and also the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Authority. Yeah. So you have to be able to beat those standards and exceed them as well. So that is why we are seeking to get that side of the runway and that side of the property at least clear, so that you can see the added extension heading east as well.
Okay. There's two buildings just on the, is that the northern side where the police station used to be? They used to have a police presence right there,
right.
The pink building.
Right.
That building and the one belongs to Marion Jeffers. Will those two be?
Well, those are not in the project that we are seeking to, the things that we are seeking to do with this project.
Okay.
If I were to just give you somewhat of a picture, that road that sits at the top of the airport parking lot, and in front of those two properties you just mentioned, that will be sent through that same property with the white roof, that building next door with the white roof, through that property, and then reconnect to the Island Main Road just in front of where the fire officers are now stationed. So it will be cutting through that property and reconnecting. So they're not in the scope of the project that we are seeking to undertake. Okay.
Now, when I went to New York recently, there's a $25 billion project going on at JFK, but the airport is still running as normal. Would the proposed work on this project affect the daily operations at the airport, especially in terms of planes flying in, to, and out of Vance W. Emery?
Not necessarily planes that are flying in and out, but there will be some disruption, I'm sure. But here's what we intend to do. The current runway as it stands, we can proceed with the construction eastwards without affecting the current runway, because we are adding an additional just over 1,000 feet heading eastwards. So we can have those work being done and aircraft land and take off as normal.
Right.
A lot of the work that will be done in terms of resurfacing and so forth will be done after the airport close, because we have those cargo aircraft that comes in there 5, 6 o'clock. Of course, there are times when you'll have a win air on a weekend, for example. Now, adjustments will be made with some of these schedules to accommodate work in the evening or in the night. So every effort will be made to minimize disruption. Of course, when it comes to the passenger terminal itself, there will be a lot of work done on that terminal, and of course, as persons travel in and out, there will be inconvenience in some way. There will be some inconvenience, but of course, that happens all over the world, Keith. All over the world, you see work ongoing on passenger terminals. I see it happen. I saw it happening in St. Martin. Saw it happening elsewhere. But that doesn't stop the flow. But of course, the inconveniences will be there, and The good thing about the inconveniences is that it would lead to convenience in the end,
True.
whereby we'll have an upgraded facility, one that is comfortable for passengers who are arriving and departing, and the aesthetics and everything about the passenger terminal will be so nice. So we're moving towards that. But the works outside of the terminal, meaning construction of the parking apron, and also the fuel farm and the likes, all those will be ongoing while aircraft are coming and going, since they're not in the immediate, pathway of aircraft landing or taking off. So, but based on what the work schedule will be like or the work plan, it will be done in such a way to minimize any major disruption and to ensure that the airport continues to function as normal.
Okay, great. Now, in terms of, speaking of work, in terms of contractual or subcontractual work in this project, could you enlighten us a little bit more on that? For instance, who will be the contractors, if you know already, and if possible, some of the subcontractors?
Right. We haven't selected a contractor as yet, of course. Well, you have to have money to start to talk to contractors as far as I'm concerned, so we're getting there. But like I said, whatever we do would be in short order, meaning, as I told you, there are work that is to be started, that will be started in this quarter, and at least the selection of a contractor. Subcontractors would be born out of a contractor, for example, or there are certain things that the NIA itself might very well undertake and then assign to various entities here on the island of Nevis. So the work program and what is involved will be worked out and flushed out accordingly. Now, here's the thing, Keith, that my job up to this point in time was to actually bring all the pieces together with respect to this project. You understand that we would have had dialogue with property owners or consultants who we've been working with for a number of years now. That is the Perez Engineering Group. They also there's the interaction on a daily basis with that particular group, and of course there is interaction as well with the NIA. So up to this point in time, we have been taking it step by step, and so as we go along, there are new things that would come into the mix, and we'll deal with those accordingly. But so far, I will say we have gotten to the point where we are with making sure that we cover all of our bases as we go along. But contractors, subcontractors, and persons who would indeed get work there at the Van Summer International Airport during the construction phase, all that will be known shortly.
Okay, great. Let me pick your brain for a little bit. During the construction phase, how much employment do you anticipate may be generated as a result?
Well, quite a number of persons will be employed, and also you spoke about subcontractors, for example. We'll have need for a number of truckers, and if a truck owner is on the job, then he's employed. Yeah, backhoe operators, excavators, heavy equipment in general, all type of heavy equipment that are needed in this particular type of work. And of course, the various contractors will be there, would have their group of employees as well. And indeed, I would think that in excess of 100 persons or more will be gainfully employed during this particular phase of the construction. That is when we get started. Surveyors and laborers and persons who would be tallying trucks and so forth. So you have quite a number of persons. As a matter of fact, we'll also have to include all those who will be working along with the contractor in terms of engineers who will be doing soil testing, who will be doing other things that are that are associated with this type of project. So in terms of articulating all of the persons who will be working there, a number of persons from various fields will be employed during the construction phase. So my guess is well over 100 persons will be gainfully employed, and so in time to come, as we go along, all of these positions will be made known, and persons or young people will just have to get themselves ready and in a position to come and capitalize and take advantage of employment when the time comes. But work will be there. And that is what this type of project will do here on the island of Nevis, and that is to increase the employment and also increase revenue for families and households as well. So it is a major project to undertake that will bring about substantial benefits to one and all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, how do you see this proposed airport upgrades impacting the Nevisian economy in the long run? When it is
Well, you said the long run, but you have to take it step by step.
yes,
Near run,
I agree.
medium run, and long run. In all areas, this would have a significant impact on the economy. We just spoke about the construction phase. During the construction phase, of course, there'll be employment. Money is going into the economy every day because, of course, you'll have to procure materials for the construction phase, whether it's concrete, whether it's building material, whether it's importation of items that are needed for various parts of the project. And indeed, persons will collect their paycheck at the end of every 2 weeks or every month, whatever the case might be. They collect their monies, and they'll have to be paying social security deductions and the like. And once they collect their paycheck, then they go to the various shops and bars and supermarkets, pay their mortgage, pay their bills, pay whatever. So in terms of the impact on the economy, there's a multiplier effect to a particular project like this.
Yep.
Every aspect of the economy, every area of the economy will be impacted in a large way and also in a small way, in every possible shape and form.
Okay.
So that being said, that is the construction phase, which we consider to be in the near term. It's about 18 months, but we want to go beyond that because, of course, this would seriously and positively impact our tourism product and our tourism sector. Keith, I will say to you that there are persons who are seeking to come to Nevis, but to get to Nevis, they have to go to different countries or islands to get to Nevis, meaning you're trying to get to point B, which is Nevis, but you're leaving point A, the United States, or wherever the case might be, but you have to go through Antigua, through St. Kitts to St. Martin to get to Nevis. That is a serious impact, a negative impact on our tourism product in terms of going out there to spend money to advertise Nevis and say, come to Nevis. But when asked, how do I get to Nevis? You'll have to get on a plane in Miami and then go to St. Martin or go to St. Kitts or go to Antigua and then fly over to Nevis. In a sense, persons can tell themselves, I can leave Miami and go to Nassau, Bahamas, whatever the case might be, Jamaica or wherever, close by, which is just a hop or a skip or whatever the case might be, point A to point B. So in the medium term, we are seeking to build our presence in the international market by ensuring that we're providing that ease of access to the island of Nevis. I'll go one step further. For example, let's say 3 o'clock our time here tomorrow morning. Persons are getting on a plane in California. Let's say 3, 4 o'clock. I think they are 4 hours behind us right now. So they're getting on a plane, to fly to Miami. Get to Miami the early hours of tomorrow morning, and then they'll come to St. Kitts, for example, and then take a boat over. Some people like that particular feature, some don't. But I give you that example to tell you that a person like that, or traveler, or tourist, potential tourist, look at that, and it's a good distance. But they'll come, yes, but we want to make it easier than that. So when they get to Miami, they're coming straight to Nevis.
Okay.
And that is the point I'm trying to make. When you get to Miami, just as it used to be in the past, when a person left the mainland, the U.S. mainland, they came to Puerto Rico, and from Puerto Rico to Nevis. And I was happy to hear one of the principals that is involved in that hotel over there in Uwali, that those were the days when the American Eagle was flying out of Puerto Rico. Those were the days when they made the most money.
True.
Because persons were leaving Miami into Puerto Rico and then straight into Nevis. People want to get to their destination quickly and easily.
True.
And so this upgrade that we are seeking to accomplish is to make it easier for persons to access the product that we have here in Nevis. We're not competing with anyone. We're not saying that we're trying to block anyone from going to anywhere. But we're saying we want to compete internationally with all those players out there because we have the amenities that can compete and compare with anyone else out there, whether it's Jamaica, whether it's the Bahamas, whether it's Antigua, where whomever. We have a good product here in Nevis and we want persons to come. And so I am happy to say that in the medium term, that is what we're seeking to do. And in the long run, as the medium term develops and provide us with all of that good report and good information out there in all of the database that you can now fly into Nevis, more will come. Not only that, with the upgrade, it would also open up the door for additional foreign investments in Nevis. And what I mean by that, it is time for us to get another hotel here on the island of Nevis, no doubt. I believe that there are others who have been contemplating, but because of the difficulties I just spoke about, that is why that they have withheld their investment. We are saying with this construction now, that should be the start of good things to come in the long run. And so I am seeking to, I'm speaking to those out there who have been contemplating that things will be ripe for investment in a major hotel. We need to see another hotel here on the island of Nevis, not a name that exists currently. We want to get a name that does not exist in the Caribbean. You remember when Four Seasons came?
Of course.
How many other Four Seasons were in Nevis at that? Not Nevis, but in the Caribbean at that time?
None.
None. Okay. So that is significant. When Four Seasons first came, that's when, well, the expansion of the Van Samre International Airport took place sometime after. But after that was done, that's when you saw 4 flights per day.
Yes.
A flight left in the morning at 7, came back at 1 o'clock, left at 2, came back at 5 p.m. So we had 4 flights emanating in and out of our leaving and coming back to the Van Samre International Airport. So in the long run, that is what we are seeking to accomplish. That's why I said, well, let's break it down into short term, medium term, and long term. So in the long run, we expect to see a brand here in Nevis that doesn't exist in the Caribbean. So Nevis has always been the leader in this regard. Because remember, the Bath Hotel was the first.
Yes.
Four Seasons was the first, and I expect to hear some name that has never come before to come to Nevis. Never come to the Caribbean before, but come to Nevis, and that is what we're seeking to achieve. You see, you started by saying we're talking positive things here, and that's why I'm speaking positively, because I believe that is the case, and I believe someone is waiting, and someone wants to come, but the challenges that are there right now with getting their visitors or their guests here, the challenges are there, and we're seeking to eliminate that. And by eliminating that, I know we'll get those investments
yes.
Here on the island of Nevis. Okay. We're ripe for that, and we're ready for it. Yeah.
Great. Now, let me ask you this: what about the effects on the constituency of St. James itself? How do you see the upgrades impacting that rapidly growing constituency?
Well, it will be huge in the sense that the property itself, the airport property itself, of course, it is in need of a facelift. It needs to be upgraded so that it can look better to start with. I would go back a couple of years, Keith, and say to you, a lot of the young men in Newcastle who are now, well, back then, who are now senior persons in our community, started. The first job they had was at the Newcastle airport, whether they were ramp attendant, baggage handlers, airline attendants, or whatever the case might be. They started there, and a lot of them have gone on to live a successful life. Now, our young people who are here now looking for opportunities in the constituency of St. James, but more so throughout the whole of Nevis, we are hoping that this particular upgrade will give them that platform where they can build a foundation and build a life through that particular airport and that particular industry, which is the service industry. That being said, along the way, you'll have additional businesses that will be created in St. James. Because, of course, if persons are now moving into St. James, which they are, they'll find employment at the Van Samer International Airport. They'll have more disposable income. It therefore means that they'll have money to spend. Sure. And if they have money to spend, they want to spend it somewhere. And then that would open up opportunities for persons who want to get into some form of business to capitalize on those persons who have monies to spend. Not only that, I really think that the whole idea of having that real estate in St. James is a major, major plus for us. I make the joke sometimes, and I say that by the time we're done with that airport, since we now have that seaport down there at Oale, well, we have all of the amenities as a constituency to separate from the whole of Nevis. It is a joke, eh?
Yes.
But we have a university. We have police station, we have churches, we have health center, we have, playfield, the VOJ and playfield. We have, as I said, the seaport and airport to be expanded. And we have all the amenities over there to suggest that we can proceed on our own, but that's not the case. But I'm just making joke with that. But it's good to see these developments in our constituency over there, the constituency of St. James. And that is why I have to mention this, because sometime last year, the leader of the NRP and those in the NRP who are much older than some of us, and that's why I'm stressing the young people who would be getting an opportunity to find employment in the construction and also at the end when the airport is in full operation. Those older folks, and I'm not knocking older people, because I cannot understand for the life of me why on a Friday afternoon in the hot sun these persons would have gone up to the airport with their placards and suggesting we don't want an airport expansion. When in truth and in fact we are doing this to ensure that our young people leaving school, or young people who are thinking about coming back to Nevis after they've completed their studies abroad, that they have opportunities in their own land or in the land of their birth. And that is why I just cannot understand why anyone will be opposed to such a project, and this particular project that is. So when that protest was taking place up there, I looked at it and I looked at the face of all of the persons there. And all of them would have gone beyond their prime, so to speak. But I am thinking about those young people who are coming up, who are 19 years old, 20 years old, who have their full life ahead of them. The opportunities have to be there for them to at least build a life here in the island of Nevis and to be the face of Nevis at that particular airport. Sure. Because when persons arrive, you'll meet your immigration officers, you'll meet your customs officers, you'll meet your taxi operators, you'll meet airline attendants. So these are young people who will be meeting these folks. And keep in mind, there's a saying, you never get a second chance to create a first impression.
True.
I've heard that for all my life. So those are the young people we are catering to, and those young people who will eventually find work there to be a, whatever it is, a refueler, or work at the FBO, work on the ramp, whatever the case might be. Those are the ones that I'm happy for, that we are creating this opportunity for them to really grow in this island and be the face of this island going into the future. We are old, Keith.
Not so old.
Well, I'm 56 years old. But I still feel young, eh? Anyway, and that's why I'm thinking young and thinking for the young, and believe that the young people should have their space and have their time to excel, and also to make sure that they carry on that legacy that persons like you and I would have built on based on the experiences of the past and those who would have gone on before us. It is like a relay race in life. In life, it's a relay race. You pass on the baton. Yeah. So we're going to pass on the baton someday to those young people so that they can run with it, and then they'll eventually pass it on thereafter. So that is what we're seeking to do up there in at the Van Samer International Airport, which will have a huge impact on the constituency of St. James and by extension the entire island of Nevis.
Sounds good to me, very good to me. Folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest this evening is the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. We shall take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here on Government at Work.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Honorable, talk to us a little about some of the new features that we can expect to see when the upgrades are completed, especially in the upgraded terminal building.
Okay. Well, I went through, like, not in details, but I'll go into details now in terms of what will be accomplished over there.
Right.
In terms of the runway, well, we'll see the expansion of the existing runway to a total length of 1,850 meters, which is just about 6,070 feet. We'll expand to the west, which will be just about 860 feet to the west and 1,207 feet to the east. So that will be the complete runway in terms of asphalt. And of course, you'll have an area for aircraft to turn at either end of the runway as well. Yeah? There'll be some sea construction, some work done in the sea at the western end of the runway. And then, of course, we'll be doing some rehabilitation work of the apron, as I said before, in front of the terminal itself. And construction of new taxiways. There are 2 brand new taxiways that will be constructed, along with a brand new parking apron, which is in the vicinity of, as I said before, Tire World and that area, those areas, right? Additionally, the entire perimeter of the airport property will be refenced, brand new fence. As it is right now, you pass there, you see what it's like. So that will be torn down and brand new fencing will be done of the entire airport perimeter, which would be about 14,800 feet of fencing will be done over there as well. There will be the replacement of the existing airport or airfield lighting. So brand new LED lighting will be installed. And of course, the pavement itself, the runway will be reinforced because of course you're getting heavier aircraft. And the aircraft that we're seeking to attract here on the island of Nevis, which would be perhaps the largest that will come, will be the Embraer 175. That particular aircraft carries a maximum of just about 76 to 80 passengers, based on the configuration of the seating and so forth. Indeed, we'll have all of the business jets, all of the major business jets that fly throughout the world will be able to land there. You have the Challengers, the what you call it now, the global 7500s and 7000 Learjets and Gulfstream. All of them will be able to land there and take off from that airport, the completed runway, full of passengers and full of fuel. And that has been the challenge over the years, whereby aircraft would have had to leave here and go to St. Kitts, for example, for fuel, go to Puerto Rico or other destinations, St. Martin, to get fuel. Those tend to create difficulties for aircraft owners. That is not why they buy their aircraft. They buy the aircraft to go from point A to point B and do so in a quick period of time and not have to waste time elsewhere. So there'll be also improvement in the drainage systems around the airport. If you can recall, over the years we've had issues with flooding in the area. So there, I believe there are about 9 different water courses over there. All of those drainage issues will be eliminated with this upgrading the drainage systems around the airport perimeter. And also I spoke before about the realignment of the main road that currently runs in front of Tire World. That will be eliminated since they will be considered parking areas. Then there'll be a roundabout just in the vicinity, if you know where those containers are, those white containers that sits there in the vicinity of Sunshine Shoppers. There'll be a roundabout in that vicinity. The Sunshine Shoppers will remain though. Yeah, we figure that to be an important part of the overall environment in terms of the service that they provide. It's a restaurant, so we feel it is important to remain. Brand new fuel farm, like I said, will be built. which will be on the western end of the airport property. And indeed, a new fire hall that I mentioned before, that will be built. If you cast your mind up there to the airport, you know where the existing, the older fire hall is? There is an open space there, which is between the new temporary fire hall and the old one. There's an open space there. That's where the new fire hall will be built. In terms of the control tower, there'll be minimal work done on the interior per se, but on the outside there'll be at least some improvement in terms of the exterior work, some new facade and new work, some new upgrade will be done on the overall appearance of the control tower. The structure itself is very sound. Based on the analysis that was done, the structure is good. It's in very good shape. And even at the height that it exists, they would be able to see the extreme and eastern end of the runway, the western end, and the environment and the parking areas as well too. So there's no need to do anything further other than to upgrade the exterior and make it look a lot better than it is. And of course I did mention about the cargo facility that will be constructed. It will be about 5,800 square feet of a building, that is. We have seen the floor plan for that already, and indeed some additional ideas will be added so that we can be in a good position to say it is a building that will serve us now and into the future as well. Plus I did mention about the FBO, the fixed base operation, that will be constructed as well, plus the aircraft hangar. So all these things will be done. Keith, let me say that we are extending the runway 6,070 feet. And just to give you by way of comparison, you can have a piece of road built in Nevis which is 6,070 feet. And buses, trucks and cars and the likes will use it every day. But that would be for local purposes, for persons to traverse and move from one point to the next here on the island. With this extension of 6,070 feet, you're seeking to gain access to the international arena, to the entire world. Aircraft will be able to leave here and go to all states within the United States. Well, not 50, but 48 states on the mainland itself. Canada, Europe, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Africa, Morocco, wherever. And of course, perhaps to Asia as well, yeah? To Asia, they might have to make one stop. But, they can leave here and make one stop and then on to all parts of Asia. So, but I know they can leave here directly to Europe because those global 7500s can fly for up to 15 hours. It's 8 hours to Europe. So, 15 hours, any destination, they can get you there, yeah? So that is why I say it is a huge quantum leap forward, if I were to categorize it that way, when you extend to 6,070 feet of asphalt that will be used at the airport as against here on the island. We love our roads here on the island, yes, but it's for local use. But this is for regional and international use, and also to South America. I didn't even mention South America, to Argentina, Brazil, and the like. So this would open up the island to huge things, to the entire world. And that is the big difference with what we're doing as against merely building a few roads here and there. So this is big business I'm talking about, Keith.
Okay, great. Now, the private jet parking is said to be one of the main attractions of this project.
Right.
Tell us a little more about that. For example, how many jets the parking lot will be able to hold, and
right.
where exactly will the area be located?
Okay. So I did mention before that that area, Tire World, and heading westwards, all those lands heading west along the island main road. This is on the south side, the mountain side.
Right.
You come around the bend down here where the Woods property is.
Right.
And then midway, so to speak, between the Mount Nevis entrance and that corner that I spoke to you about by the Yarwoods. then that's where the road, the actual island main road, will cut through those lands and headed all the way over towards the back of Sunshine Shoppers.
Okay.
So all those lands on the seaside of the island main road will become airport territory. So in terms of parking area, in front of Taiwan, all those lands around there will be considered parking areas, and we're seeking to, at least in the initial stages, to have apron the size that can accommodate up to 50 of those private jets, because you'll still have some parking for smaller aircraft in front of the passenger terminal, but down here by the tire wall area, and I'm using tire wall as reference, but all those areas there we're seeking to purchase, all there would be parking areas for, at least it can accommodate 2 of those Embraer jets at any given time, along with at least 50 of those private jets. So more than enough parking will be there to start with, and as time go by, as the years go by, and the business at the airport increases and the demand is there, then of course you'll have lands to expand further. So there'll be space.
Okay, great. Now, let me ask you this. Would the proposed upgrades affect the Newcastle fishermen in any way?
Yes, and I have to be very clear about that, because initially we were hoping that it may not. But you see, with some of the challenges that you're having over there is, these birds, these, what do you call them, seagulls or whatever they are. Once you're cleaning fish and that type of environment, it attracts these birds. Now, if you were to follow news items in recent years, you would realize that there are times when these aircraft, upon taking off, will ingest some of these birds, create difficulties. And we're seeking to eliminate that. But of course we have an option, an alternative for the fisher folks over there in Newcastle. Up at Herbert Beach, in the eastern corner of the Herbert Beach lands, we're seeking to relocate them to that area. So there'll be an alternative available to them, but it will be a major challenge to have them in and around airport environment, because it will certainly create a problem and a challenge there for sure. So we have said that before. Initially, like I said, we were thinking we may not have had to do that, but as it stands, we'll have to do that, and that will create some concerns, I'm sure, by folks. But we're not leaving our fisher folks, hanging, so to speak, or without a home. But they'll have a home when it's all said and done.
Okay, great. Now, the sea, as you're aware, has started to erode some of the lands going towards the Newcastle Bay Marina area, where the Pizza Hut is. Will there be some protection put in place in that area, seawall, fence, perhaps?
Absolutely, because what it is now, every airport have a perimeter road in the event of emergency. So as it stands, there will be a road on the outer perimeter fence of the airport property. So through that same area you're talking about, there will be some, city fence done, so as to put in the road to run along the fence all the way up to the extreme end of the airport fence at the eastern end. So you'll have that road coming at the bottom at the western end, and it will make its way all the way up. So that existing road that is over there right now, that take you to the Pizza Beach, that road will be, of course, upgraded, and it will form part of the perimeter fence, perimeter road, that would take persons from the airport or, security and whomever, emergency vehicles, whatever the case might be, will be able to traverse that area. So there will be some work done to ensure that there is some city fence there and some revetment put in place so as to protect the airport property and also the road that will be constructed there.
Okay, great. Now I want to go back to the road, because you mentioned the road, the diversion road, quite a bit. When you come off the Catalan part, the smooth road end right here, is that where the turning is going to be to go?
Well, not exactly, but I'll
you go further
give
down.
it another 100 feet, thereabout.
You go through the Chatterton's land.
Go through the Chatterton's land, exactly.
Okay.
So add another 100 feet onto that, and then you'll have the turnoff right there. A beautiful intersection will be put in there as well too. Plus, you'll also be able to continue towards the corner, and then to the back of the runway, and then connect to the same road in front of Jiff. You know that same road that takes you up to the marina.
Yes,
The
yes,
Newcastle
yes,
Marina.
yes, yes.
So just imagine that road extending going west to the back of the runway, instead of what exists now. You go down towards Drift, at the back of the current runway, that road takes you down to Drift.
Yes.
Take that road up and put it to the back of the extension that we'll be doing.
Okay.
And then you'll have that perimeter road that takes you to Drift, and then all the way up to Newcastle Bay Marina, and all the way up to the gut.
Yes.
We call it Nisbet Gut, or whatever you want to call it here, and then back onto the main road. So
Okay.
you'll be able to make that connection here.
Great, great. Now, Honorable, I want us, because we have exhausted the airport section, I want us now to reflect for a bit on some of the projects that you would have presided over when you were the minister responsible for those projects. Because it is quite easy for one to forget the contributions that you would have made when you were the minister in charge a mere 2.5 years ago. You were the minister responsible for agriculture, lands, housing, fisheries, etc. Not only the minister, but the driving force behind a number of these projects, including the Indian Castle Fruit Farm, the improvements and the success of the abattoir, the improvements at the agro-processors union, livestock farming, fisheries, housing, etc., etc. I want to look at the improvements that has been made in those areas thus far and get your feedback on where they are currently, starting with the fruit farm at Indian Castle. First of all, when was the last time you visited the farm?
Well, those sounds like questions you'll ask the current minister, Minister Evelyn. But anyway,
No, I wanted your take on it as a former minister with the current situation.
okay. Well, I believe my last trip to Indian Castle was about a week and a half ago, I believe.
Okay, great.
Well, they have had some challenges down there because, of course, last year was a rough year in terms of rainfall. So they have had to, deal with those circumstances down there. And the assurance is there from Minister Evelyn that all efforts are being exerted to ensure that they can, bring that facility back to where it once was. And like I said, the challenge was with the weather last year. That being said, it is still a project that needs attention, that would be considered one of those things that was accomplished under the CCM administration that would have caused us to move from what we once had down there, which was a field of cotton, which meant nothing to anyone. But what we have done down there in terms of the procurement of over 5,000 coconut trees and planting of banana trees, mango trees, punganut apple, sugar apple that is, and also soursop. We have had some production down there. And even watermelon, there was a huge producer of watermelon down there. So those things would have to be worked on by the minister and his team, and I have every confidence in them that they'll be able to, do that and redeem themselves accordingly. Because, like I said, the challenges of last year were there, and you cannot forget that. But indeed, I expect them to continue to press on in their pursuit to, bring it back to where it once was. And that's why I said that when in life and in everything, in organizations and so forth, the baton is passed on, and you expect the baton to be taken and run with in terms of moving forward. And I have confidence in the folks who are putting out the effort down there. I still want to congratulate those who are there, who are trying their very best every day. And if I can go down and give some ideas, I will do that, which is not a problem for me. And I love going down there because back in the day, I used to go there every Tuesday morning, for example, and walk around and get my exercise and impart some knowledge and give some motivation to the guys who are there. So I expect all that to be done continuously so that we can continue to have some return on our investment on there, which I am certain that Minister Evelyn and his team are working towards.
opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
You are just listening to the On Point program. This edition featured the NIA's Government at Work program, which was first aired on January 23rd, 2025.